everyone, hope you're doing well and please be joined by Villa on tour to get his thoughts ahead of the big game at Villa Park on Sunday. Max, let's just kick it off by speaking about your team. Give us your thoughts on where Villa are at the moment, will you? Because there's a lot going on at your club.
That's one way to put it, mate. Yeah, it's been a thoroughly underwhelming start to the season. Gerrard's come in, it's nearly been a year now. And, there was positive signs when he first came in. First game, beat Brighton at home. Second game, beat Crystal Palace away. Really good result there. But then towards the end of last season, it started getting a little bit inconsistent. Failing to beat a relegated Burnley at home. Palace at home was terrible. And it was just really flat at the end of last season. So we're all sort of saying as a fan base, look, right, get into pre-season, can get his own players in. He's signing Coutinho on a permanent, Kamara on a permanent, who could on a free as well, who could have gone to the Champions League, Atletico Madrid, Man United were interested. So we're all thinking, oh, what brilliant pre-season. But then, oh mate, Bournemouth away, first game of the season. It was terrible. Like, I know weird things can happen on the first game of the season and things like that. Weird results can happen. But if you actually watch the 90 minutes, we looked absolutely clueless and beat Everton at home after that. Okay result, weren't flattering there. And then our last game in the league was Crystal Palace, which was equally as bad as Bournemouth. So a lot to think about, mate. Plenty of things to worry about. It's a weird time at Villa at the moment.
Yeah, I know a lot of people underplay first game of the season, but I think you'll be saying what West Ham fans are saying, which is it goes back to last season, though it's a continuation of what we saw at the end of last season. So it's almost like we haven't had a summer in a pre-season, because it feels like your last 2 or 3 games of last season and the first one of this season is all in 1 month. And it's what you're seeing is an issue now is what you're seeing as an issue prior. And if anything, that's more worrying. But what's your thoughts on Steven Gerrard at the minute? Because I'm seeing some sort of on Villa football Twitter, I'm seeing some wild statistics going around. I'm not even sure half of them are true, but his win rate or his loss rate rather has been compared to like Tim Sherwood and stuff. I mean, is it that bad?
Yeah. I think it's 3 in 15. If you're going back to last season, like you said, 3 wins in 15, which isn't great. I just think it's, you can, Palace, they're a good side, just example of our last game. They're a good side. You can take loose in there, you can, but it's the manner of the performances. That is the problem. It's the manner of it. It's the fact that we're going into each game with very, very strong side. And if you're looking at it, everyone in pre-season was sort of saying, we need to be best of the rest. That is what we need to be competing with. On paper, you need to be competing with your West Hams, your Wolves, Leicesters, Newcastle, potentially, sides like that. And if you look at it on paper, our squad is probably one of the strongest out of those sides we're competing with. But it's just going into games with absolutely no plan. And when Gerrard first came in, there was a really good identity there, to be fair. We're trying to play the right way. You can really see what we're trying to do. And we were going toe-to-toe with Liverpool, Man City. They were finding it hard to beat us. But now we're just rolling over far too easily. There's just no aggression, no fight. And mate, there's just no plan. And it's difficult to see where we're going at this point. It just looks like, it just makes you wonder, what do they do Monday to Friday in training? Bolton in the cup was okay, scored a few goals there. Again, we went 1-0 down and struggled in the first half. Second half was better, but I don't know. I just worry, and I worry if this is going to continue or something's going to change. But yeah, it's going to be a difficult one Sunday, that's for sure.
One thing I bang on about on here, we did our Villa preview as well, and I keep referring to Michael Beale. How big a worry is he going to QPR? I know you've got on paper a good replacement in Neil Critchley, but Michael Beale was sort of, when he was at Rangers as well, was sort of the brains behind Steven Gerrard, was almost like the front man of the band, if you like. But then Michael Beale was the guy that wrote all the music. So is that reflected in the Villa fan base and with yourself, or am I barking up the wrong tree?
I think when he first left to go to QPR, I don't think anybody was like, oh, what's he doing? Like, he wants to be a manager. Fair enough. Fair play to him. It's a decent job, QPR. But I wasn't totally convinced. I was like, is it really that bad when he first left? I wasn't overly bothered. And on paper, we've got a really good replacement there in Neil Critchley, who did a really good job at Blackpool as well. So for him to leave a decent job at Blackpool and come to be an assistant manager, just a league higher, it says a lot about Villa. But I've seen Rangers. The thing that's worrying me is the fact that Rangers fans are saying that the brains behind Steven Gerrard went to QPR, and it makes me think, is Steven Gerrard really that sort of tactically inept that he relied on Michael Beale that much? It is really, really worrying. And what we've seen at the start of this season, it's proving to be that way, because it looks like Michael Beale was the brains behind everything, which I find a little bit bizarre, because if you're, the ambitions that are rammed down our throats at Villa, every interview that the CEO does, it's Europe this and Europe that, and the ambition of the owners and all that sort of thing. And have you really done your research on Steven Gerrard if you're letting his assistant manager, who's the brains behind everything, leave to go to QPR? I just think there's something weird going on. It is a little bit bizarre at Villa at the moment. I think something's got to give. It really does. Something's got to change, because it's something strange going on.
And one thing that did change, though, was your captain. I'll be honest with you, I haven't a Scooby as to why Steven Gerrard done it. I'm hoping you can shine a little bit of a light onto either the reasoning, and if you don't know that, just what your vibe is, why you think Steven Gerrard just chose to strip Tyrone Mings of the captaincy and give it to John McGinn.
He said when he's been asked about it in press conferences, he said that he inherited Tyrone Mings as captain. So that kind of gives off the vibe that he never really wanted him as captain, which I find a little bit strange, because Tyrone Mings splits opinion in the Villa fan base. He really does. But I'm a big fan of him. I think he's the model professional on and off the pitch. I think, yes, he's got a mistake in him, and that's what everybody talks about. But I think everybody has. You look at Ezri Konsa, who had a brilliant season a couple of years ago. He had a terrible season last year. So I just think he's a bit of a scapegoat at Villa. But to give it to John McGinn, I don't know. I know that Steven Gerrard's a big fan of him. He rarely drops him. He pretty much seems to play every single game. But I tell you what, he's had a very poor start to the season, John McGinn. And if you're going to make him your captain, it kind of gives the vibe off that he's undroppable. I know Gerrard said that he's not undroppable, but he just seems that way. He's reluctant to take him off. Our last game against Palace, he was getting absolutely dominated and was at risk of getting sent off because he was on a yellow card and he was going a bit haywire. I don't know. I think it is a little bit of a strange one. I think I maybe would have liked Emi Martinez to have it in goal. I don't know. I think the argument as well was to take the pressure off Mings a little bit of not having that captaincy. But I think you're kind of just reversing that and giving it to John McGinn, because it just gives the pressure on him a little bit more, and he struggles with that. But I think John McGinn has been poor for a long time now. So, yeah, difficult one again. And the midfield for us is the big problem.
Anyway, this is going to sound like a silly question given everything you've just said thus far, but what's a good season for Aston Villa, this one? I watched your season prediction video.
Okay.
And I think it was quite fair in regards to, often I'm probably guilty of it at times, you big your own team up a bit too much, don't you? But I think what you said in regards to your own side, I thought was fair.
I think, like I said, they've talked about Europe constantly, and I think last season was thoroughly disappointing, coming 14th. I just think, and then you say, oh yeah, there was a change of manager, but that's why the expectation on this season is so high, because he's had that sort of last bit of last season, but he's had a whole pre-season. He's got his players in, so the pressure's on this season. I think it's got to be Europe, sort of, for me now. Even if we get in that top half, I know we're only 3 games in, but if you're looking at that top 10, that's progress, because 14th last year was a fair reflection, because we were really poor, and the only consistency with Aston Villa is the fact we're inconsistent. And I've seemed to have said that for so many years now. We just cannot nail it, because we'll be brilliant. We'll beat Southampton 4-0, I remember last season, and then we'll just look absolutely dire against Burnley at home. So that's your problem, and I think that's why West Ham have done so well in the last few years, because they've got that consistency nailed. I just think that's what we're missing. But I think if you're talking a successful season, it's got to be Europe. But can I see that now? Not really.
Well, last question on your team before we move on to my team, which is there any players in form for Villa this season so far? Anyone that West Ham fans should be looking out for?
I think on the other end of the spectrum, Coutinho's been disappointing, which has sort of highlighted how important Emi Buendia is. I think Emi Buendia is very much a fan favourite at Aston Villa. We sing his name even when he's not playing, because we just want to see him on the pitch because he's so exciting. And I think he's given more than what Coutinho has so far this season. I think Coutinho's been quiet, but I think Emi Buendia is the one. Big fan of Ollie Watkins as well. I know there was a few rumours about West Ham being interested in him. I don't think we're ever going to let him go. I think he's slightly underrated for me. You don't score 14, 15 Premier League goals and you're not a bad player. So I like Ollie Watkins and Emi Buendia. I think defensively in midfield, not really. So that's where we've struggled so far. Set pieces, we've all of a sudden become terrible at those, and midfield is 100% the problem, because Gerrard likes this system of relying on the fullbacks big time, so he pushes them forward, and then the central midfielders cover at fullback, which leaves Kamara in the midfield all by himself. So yeah, going forward is where we look okay. Just everywhere else is a bit of a worry at the moment.
And before we get on to West Ham, we want to hear more from Max. Do subscribe to his Villa on Tour YouTube channel. Link to his channel is in the description below, where you'll be able to find his vlog from Sunday when West Ham do take on Aston Villa. He's closing on 50,000 subscribers. Well done. Bit jealous, but we'll leave that for a minute. But do go head over there and subscribe to his channel. But can I get your thoughts on West Ham, please, Max?
Big fan. I'm a big fan of what West Ham have done in a couple of years. In the last couple of years, I'm very, very jealous because I remember a couple of years ago when we just survived by the skin of our teeth on the last day of the season. You sort of took off from there, didn't you? And then the following few seasons, you're absolutely fantastic playing in Europe. Very, very jealous there. But I know it's been a difficult start. I watched the game against Forest. I just think, slightly unlucky there with the Benrahma goal being disallowed and things like that. But I don't know. I do worry for this one because I just think West Ham are the type of side that can really, really cause Villa problems in terms of the physicality. That is something that we massively, massively lack. I think Tyrone Mings is the only sort of one who's a little bit imposing, apart from Emi Martinez in goal, of course. But I just think that physicality of West Ham is what's going to cause us problems. So, look, I know it's been a difficult start. I'm fairly confident that West Ham will pick up. I'm confident of that. But yeah, big fan of West Ham. They're a good side.
I like asking this question because it's always interesting to see what sort of neutrals think of West Ham, and this gives me a bit of an insight. But what do you think is a good season for West Ham this season?
I just think trying to replicate what they've done. I know it's hard because I don't want to say they're punching above their weight because they have performed extremely well. But I think, like us, best of the rest, that's what you've got to try and be. I think competing with your top six sides who are struggling, Manchester United, trying to pip them to maybe that fifth spot. I know you're in the Champions League spots for quite a bit of last season as well, which was really impressive. But yeah, I just think trying to get Europe again, that's you just got to try and consistently do that for me.
Any West Ham players you admire?
Midfield, again, I hate to bang on about it, but that is 100% our problem. I would give absolutely anything to have a midfield two of Declan Rice and Souček. I really would. I know there was some loose links about us being links with Souček in the summer, but mate, that's 100% what we need. A bit of physicality, someone who can pass the ball as well as be that physically imposing player. Jared Bowen as well. What an unbelievable season he had last year as well. I know we were linked with him as well. He's the kind of player that we were linked with, when he was sort of back in the Championship with Hull. But Jared Bowen, Antonio as well, the sort of striker that caused the problems definitely with his physicality. Just that midfield, mate. Rice and Souček, unbelievable pairing.
Big game for Villa on Sunday, is it? Because from an outsider looking in, it feels like it, because it feels like a defeat would really crank up the pressure on Gerrard. And I think at the minute, trying to gauge the Villa's fans, I think there's a few sort of Gerrard out, but not loads yet. But I think there's maybe a lot that are Gerrard suspicious, perhaps, and this would sort of tip them over the edge a little bit. I think it feels like he's losing the faith among the fan base. So if that is correct, then this would be a big game. But from a Villa perspective, do you see it as a big one?
Yeah, definitely. I'm 100% in that category you just mentioned about being suspicious about him. And is he the right man? And, is this going to improve? Is this going to continue? I'm not sure, but I think it is. I think if we see a sort of performance that's similar to that one we saw at Bournemouth on the opening day, or the one that we saw last week against Crystal Palace, Villa Park could get a little bit toxic. And I know that for the neutral, that might be a little bit weird to say because we're only 4 games in, but it's just the manner of these defeats is simply not good enough. And we've spent the money, we've got in big names, and we shouldn't be playing this way. It's not good enough, and I think it is down to the manager at this point. Like I said earlier, it's what are they doing Monday to Friday? It really just little things as well about like free kick routines. Last week against Palace, we had 3 players over the ball, 2 of them do the dummy run, and then the third one comes to take it and he has no idea what he's doing. It's just these little things that just makes you think, what do they do? So look, if there's an improvement in terms of performance and we maybe get a draw or something, you can take the positives. But even the games after that, we've got Arsenal away next week, then Man City at home the game after that. So it doesn't get any easier. So I think if we lose this one, you could potentially looking at 4 defeats on the bounce. So I think, do you know what? I'd probably take a point. We haven't beaten West Ham since 2015, which is mental. Tom Cleverley scored the winner that day. So I just think, look, at Villa Park, you'd probably take a point against. I know West Ham has struggled, but they're still a good side. So I'd definitely take a point Sunday.
Well, I was going to say how you see it going, but there you say. By the way, Douglas Luiz doesn't do that for every corner, does he? Against Bolton.
Well, I don't know because he scored against Walsall in pre-season. He scored direct from a corner, and then when he scored that one against Bolton, they Villa released video from training where they were actually training for it. So, mate, if that's our whole set piece routine, I'm all for it.
I seen that footage, but then when I watched the highlights back, I watched your game against Bolton, then I watched the highlights back again. And before he takes the corner, you're very 6-yard box heavy. There's 4 or 5 Villa players in on the keeper. So I'm thinking, well, they're obviously expecting him to go for it, or at least curl it into the 6-yarder kind of thing. And I have to be honest, I thought, will Fabianski be strong? And if I'm not too sure, you know, and I've started to get a little bit worried that you're going to start whipping in corners to land on top of our keeper's head on Sunday. So that's got me a little bit anxious, if I'm honest with you. But is that your score prediction then? 1-1? Is that what you're going for?
Yeah, and that is an optimistic 1-1 as well. I think it could easily be 1-0 West Ham, 2-1 West Ham. But you just don't know what Villa side's going to turn up. That's the problem. I think if watch the first 5 minutes Sunday, and you'll probably be able to tell what the score's going to be, because you just know what Villa side's going to turn up once you watch the first 4 or 5 minutes. So I'll go with 1-1 optimistically.
If it helps, I've gone. Probably won't actually. I've gone for a 2-1 West Ham on this, because not because I've got faith in us. Because, you know, we've played 3, lost 3 in the Premier League. After we play you on Sunday, we've got Tottenham during the week, and then we've got Chelsea next weekend. So, I mean, I thought our fixtures were tough. You've somehow managed to got even tougher ones than us. But it feels massive. This game feels massive for West Ham. I think there's a lot of the jury's out for David Moyes a little bit, because he's been here for nearly 3 years now. So in November, it'll be 3 calendar years since he's returned, and we've done well for 2 of them. Well, 2.5 now. We stayed up, then 2 really strong seasons. But, you know, we've spent north of 100 million now in the summer. So it's like, well, we now need to see a bit more. And I think there's, certainly for myself, there's queries over his flexibility in tactics, if you like. He's got done by Potter massively last weekend. And I just think if Moyes has to get the better of Steven Gerrard on Sunday. I can understand Moyes being done by Pep Guardiola. Fine. A world-class manager's outdone you with his players. That's okay. But there's almost no excuses on Villa Park for West Ham and David Moyes. I expect a manager as experienced as Moyes to outwit Steven Gerrard, especially when things are a little bit fragile at Aston Villa right now. And I do feel like you guys are probably the perfect opponent for us on Sunday, actually. And the fact it's at Villa Park as well, I think will help us. I think there's probably a bit of pressure on you to come and attack us, which will probably play into our hands a little bit and allow us to be a bit more counter-attacking than most teams allow us to play as well. So it should be a good game for the neutral on Sunday. I'm not so sure about West Ham and Aston Villa fans, but certainly for the neutral, it should be a good one. But Max, thank you very much for joining me. I massively appreciate it.
Nice one, mate. Thanks for having me on. Enjoyed it. Hopefully a decent game for Villa on Sunday, but we'll see.
We shall see. And if you guys at home have enjoyed it, please do drop a like on the video. Please subscribe to Hammer's Chat, and also go check out Villa on Twitter as well. The link to his channel is in the description below, and on your screen, just a second, is Max's latest video. We'll catch you in a bit.